I literally just started editing this video and I realized that I never filmed an official intro to what this video is. So hello. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mar, and for this week's video, we are doing another physical TBR takedown video. I have a lot of books on my TBR that I need to be read and all of that, so come along with me as I try to tackle my TBR for the week and see some of the books I read. This week's books are kind of a mishmash of a bunch of different genres. So, yeah, but without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's read together. I completely forgot an intro, so at the end of this video, you will see me exactly dressed like that. So, not to be confused or anything. But yeah, let's get into the video. Hey friends, so as you can tell, I'm in my cozy little reading corner, and the outfit I'm wearing right now is literally just the outfit I wore while I was doing my morning reset and all of that, and I'm just too lazy to change, so hence the crop top and sweatpants. But the first book I think we are going to start with for this physical TBR takedown video is Spellcaster by Jaymin, and I already started reading this, and I believe I got to 20% of the way through this book so far. And pretty much how this book was marketed to me was kind of unhinged, but this book, from what I understand so far, it's pretty much about this girl who gets accepted into the school for witches. She comes from a big family, and everyone in her family are witches, and her dad is like a professor at this witch college and all of that, and it's called the Weatherstone College, and pretty much each of the witches that go to this school kind of specialize in their own elemental magic, so elements being fire, air, water, earth, and metal. And then there are like additional specialties that only very few witches have the power to specialize in. And one of them is being like a spellcaster and all of that, hence the name. And pretty much this is like this fantasy academia book. I don't know if it's dark academia or not because it doesn't feel dark or gothic or anything, but it is this romantasy book that takes place in this witch college and all of that. And pretty much, I believe I don't know if it's enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers, but there's those types of vibes and all of that. And the way it was marketed to me was it being like a CW show. It has that type of vibe, and reading it, I feel that vibe. I totally understand what that means, in that it is a little bit cringe. The main girl is a little bit of a pick me, but the situation and like the just environment and the way like even the dialogue is written is something that it feels like it would come out of the Vampire Diaries, or even like a show like Teen Wolf, or like, just like those types of shows where it's like these situations are absurd, but there's something about it that scratches your brain that you just can't stop watching and you can't stop reading. And so that's what I'm getting from Spellcaster right now. I do agree that it is reading a bit like a CW show, and I definitely needed a book that, you know, isn't a serious read, because I feel like with a lot of the fall books I've been reading so far, they're very thematic and they have a lot of, topics that, the authors really want to discuss in depth and all of that in a very serious matter, where this one is literally about a girl who's like a witch. She doesn't really know what she's doing or like what her powers are. I'm pretty sure she got into this college due to nepotism. And you know what? As she should. And yeah, like those are the types of vibes for this book so far. But yeah, I'm going to get started on reading this book, and then we'll see what we decide to read next for this TBR takedown book. So I've made it to about 50% of the way through Spellcaster right now, and there's not too much I have regarding like reading updates and all of that, but the only thing I can really say is I have no idea if I'm enjoying this book or not. This book is at a very different standard compared to the other books that I've read recently and all of that I'm not sure how I feel about this book in particular, and also this is the first book I've ever read by Jaymin Eve, and so I don't really know how I'm going to rate this book. There are some elements that I am enjoying for sure, but there's a lot of things in this book that I personally do not like. That's like the biggest reading update I have so far is that I really don't know how I'm going to feel about this book by the end of it. It's very different from all of the other books that I've read, but I'm currently 50% of the way through this book. I think I'm going to finish this tonight and then give maybe another update around 75% of this book, but yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say right now. Hi, so I wanted to give a quick update as to where I am in Spellcaster, and I finally made it a bit past 75% of the way through, and I have a feeling I know now I have a feeling as to what rating I'm going to put for this book, and it really depends if the ending changes or not, but I've already started to formulate a review in my head surrounding this book and all of that. But I just wanted to provide a little bit of a check in and talk about where I am in this book and all of that. I'll do a more of a whole like plot synopsis in my book review, but for the most part, just intuitively, I know what I'm going to be rating this book unless something changes in the next bit. But I have a feeling with this one, also because it's just so small and short, like it's a bit over 300 pages. I don't know if there's really going to be anything that necessarily needs to be added on in this book or anything like that. But yeah, just providing a little check in for you, and I will come back to you with my book review. Hey guys, so I just finished reading Spellcaster by Jaymin Eve, and honestly, let's just jump right into the book review because I have a lot to say about this particular book. And I'm honestly not a lot of good things to say. Yeah, I spent the entire day reading this book, and overall, I gave this book a 2.25 stars. It just did not hit for me, and unfortunately, I feel like this book just falls into the category of the book needed this beautiful cover with these beautiful sprayed edges in order for it to be marketed to people. With that being said, this book personally to me was not marketed through like any visual means or whatever. I was actually marketed on TikTok by like some book talker who was really hyping this up to be like a fantasy book that is very much written like a CW show. And I can confirm that. I can confirm that statement in that this book definitely was written like a CW show, but one of those CW shows that gets canceled after a first season. Let's get into the plot of this. Let's get into characters, elements that I maybe liked and all of that. But yeah, overall, again, gave this a 2.25 stars, which is definitely on the lower end of ratings for me. Usually, if I like a book and it kept me engaged and there were things I liked, I normally give it a 3 stars. This one, there were more things that I disliked than actually liked in this book. This book takes place in this, I guess, prestigious witch warlock college called Weatherstone College. And it is this college who accept students when they turn or whatever, like 22 or whatever. The thing is, okay, from the beginning of this book, it's very much unclear on how these students get accepted. And the only thing that I think you're really told is that you're accepted based off of your affinity or skill or how much power you have as a witch or warlock. And so the I guess the more powerful you are, the more likely you're going to get into more of these witch colleges and all of that. Pretty much this is told from the point of view of this character named Paisley Hallister. First off, okay, usually in fantasy books, the main characters will definitely have like unique names and all that, but Paisley is one of the lamest names I have heard in a fantasy book. No offense if your name is Paisley in real life. It's just the name of the main character of for this book just does not fit the vibe at all of what happens in this book and all that. Anyway, so this whole book is told from the point of view of Paisley. She is 22 years old and she gets accepted into Weatherstone College, and this is a big deal to her because she comes from this big witch warlock family that is very, in a way, a little bit reminiscent of the Weasley family from Harry Potter, but with less boys and gingers. She is the youngest in her family, and pretty much all of her siblings, so she has 4 siblings, they all go to this college. Her dad's a professor there, and all of that, like, already, like, it was already going to be a given that she was going to be going to this college. But the unique thing about her is that she doesn't really have a specific affinity or elemental calling that a lot of witches and warlocks already get. Pretty much in this world, witches and warlocks have elemental magic. So they're able to do magic with specific elements like fire, water, air, earth, and metal. So they're practically airbenders, but in witch and warlock form. But pretty much there's always like a specific element that calls to a specific individual. And then there are these witches or warlocks that are called spellcasters, and pretty much they are the avatars of this world. They are the ones that have, a strong affinity in all of the elements. Spellcasters also have that elemental magic, but they are like 10 times stronger than, a normal person or whatever, a normal witch or wizard or whatever they're called. Yeah. So that's kind of like the extent of world building we're given in this book. Everything that I told you, that's pretty much all you need to know for this entire book, and that gets repeated to you throughout this entire book. Anyway, so pretty much this book is told from the point of view of Paisley, and she's pretty much taking you through like her first days at this college and all that, trying to figure out her ability. And while she is at this college, another new student arrives at the school, and he is like a few years ahead of her. And apparently, this new student, his name is Logan Kingston. He used to be her childhood best friend, but then something happened and they were pretty much ripped apart from each other. And now he's back, and pretty much everyone is telling this girl, Paisley, like, you need to stay away from him, like, he wants to kill you. Pretty much, this guy is like the Zayden Ryerson of this world, except he's Italian and loves to call Paisley precious. Do we know why? Not really. Do we see a lot of this Logan character? Periodically, but there's not enough where like any romance or anything can be blossomed. Like, I don't know if this was marketed as like enemies to lovers or whatever, but it tries to give off that vibe, but really, like, it's not enemies to lovers at all. Like, this girl sees him and she's already like groveling at his knees. While Paisley is at this college or this magical college or whatever, she's been having these run ins with these different types of monsters. And she's like trying to warn people, being like, no, like, I'm being attacked by monsters, blah 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 blah. Like, she's had all these run-ins, she's almost like died multiple times, and people at this college think she's crazy. Like, they're just like, no, you weren't attacked by a monster. Like, okay, yeah. The weird thing about this book is that magic, magic, you know, attainable, realistic, you know, there being a monster, no, no one's having it. Everyone is gaslighting this girl and just saying like, "Girl, you literally did not get attacked by a monster. Like, who did this? Like, which witch like attacked you or whatever?" And it's just like, yeah, that is pretty much the main plot of this book, and that's literally all you need to know. Could I go any more in depth into what happens? Not really, because honestly, not much happens in this book. Like, the plot doesn't actually come till maybe the last 2 pages of this book. Really, like, everything that I told you is practically what happens in this first book. And if you want to uncover the mysteries or whatever, read this, go ahead, good for you. But yeah, I don't know. It was just like, the whole plot of this, I thought there would be more to it, and it just wasn't giving. Like, by the time I got to the last 30%, I was actually thinking about DNFing this book because literally nothing was happening. But I held till the end because I was like, okay, I think there's gonna be a cliffhanger, and there was. And honestly, the only thing that saves that this book is this cliffhanger. And unfortunately, that's like the best writing the book has throughout this whole thing is the cliffhanger. And even then, the execution of that cliffhanger isn't great, but it's so much better than what you're given anywhere else in this book. Now let's move on to characters. So yes, I've already told you about the main character Paisley. There's nothing really extraordinary about Paisley when it comes to like personality wise, but you know, she is the main character, so obviously like everything in this book surrounds her. And then a lot of the characters in this book are definitely secondary, so like even the romance is very secondary in this book, which is crazy because if anything, considering this book isn't strong plot wise, I thought it would be stronger romance wise, and it wasn't that. But yeah, there's Logan Kingston, who is the male love interest in this book, and I've already described him as he's pretty much the Zayden Ryerson of this book, but he's Italian. He's supposed to be dangerous. He's supposed to, you know, want to kill this girl, but literally he gives like zero vibes. Like, this, like, if anything, this man just seems indifferent by Paisley. Anyways, moving on, there's like the friends that Paisley makes at this college, and then there's like her whole like cohort of siblings and all of that, and like there's like enough characters where it's like the relationships are there, especially more like familial wise or friend wise. Again, romance not there at all. When it comes to like the family relationships, though, like I have a lot of problems with the writing of this book, but when it came to writing, like when it came to writing the relationship between the siblings, I don't know. I feel like this author just like didn't have siblings growing up, or maybe they did. I don't know. But the way that they're written, literally almost every piece of dialogue has them calling Paisley like, "Hey little sis," like, "How are you doing, little sis?" "Hey sis," like that's how they speak. It's like, "How are you feeling today, little sis?" "How are you doing today, sis?" "Hey, big bro." Like, that's how they speak to each other. And I've never heard siblings, like, speak to each other like that, like, unironically. Because I have an older brother, and do I call him bro sometimes? Yeah, but in a very, like, ironic way. Like, sometimes I'll call him dude, like, but I usually will have, like, some random nickname for him, or, like, I don't even acknowledge his name either. Like, the way, like, the way the siblings talk to each other is just so weird in this book, and it's very cringy that I don't know, it's like I found that super weird in the relationship with the characters and all that. Like, it just didn't make sense to me reading it. And yeah, so let's just move on to, I guess, finally, like the beef I have most with this book, which is just the writing. Like, the writing of this book is not good. Like, if you're looking for a quick little book to maybe be a palate cleanser, or you know, just a book to read knowing that like it'll be fast paced, you'll get something out of it, then pick up this book. But yeah, the writing, it just, the author was telling you everything in this book. Like, nothing was being described to you in a descriptive way. It just felt like this person's like stream of consciousness. Like, it just felt written so juvenile. Like, it felt like this was like written for a middle grade audience, but marketed as adult. Hence, there were like there is smut scenes in this and all that, but even like those scenes weren't written well. like I'm like I'm trying not to be mean to like the author about this, but like the more I think about it, the more I think back to reading this book, I truly didn't like a lot of things, and the writing is one of them. Everything was just very underdeveloped. The writing lacked a lot of depth. Like it was clear, but at the same time, it just felt like the author was just explaining things to you, but not actually like making you feel like you were in this world or whatever. Like even thinking about this now, I couldn't describe the campus to you. I couldn't describe where they were, like where these students were living. I couldn't explain to you what the dorm looks like. I really like the most descriptive paragraphs we got is that there's this character in this book who is like this avid reader, and she's very passionate about books, and there's like paragraphs in which she's explaining like things in the book community and like in book collecting and all that. She's explaining all of that to the main character, and I'm just like, why was this included? Like knowing that like a lot of the people that are going to be picking up this book are going to be people in the book community already. So why are we over explaining how the book community works? Like that was one of the things I had trouble with, but it's just like the world building was lacking, the the powers were lacking, like there were a lot of plot holes in this. Like I still don't understand how these characters get into this school, and how the human world works with these witches and all of that. And I don't know, it was just super lacking. The concept of this book is truly like interesting. It's just it was executed so poorly that now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like and the more that I'm talking about it, I'm actually getting heated over this. But yeah, it's like before I start to like pull apart this book even more, it's like this book was engaging enough that I did finish it, but I think it was just cuz I was engaged because I thought we were going to get more towards the end of it. I thought, it was like okay, we are going to pull back layers and layers upon like things that are happening in this book, but it just like it never gets to that. It's so surface level. It's so like it stays flat the entire time. Like even like the moments where it's supposed to be higher stakes, where there's supposed to be action, it just like it there's no emotional impact to it because the writing's just not great. Like again, it's this book is written in the level of like of a book written for a middle grade audience, but this is marketed as like an adult fantasy. All of the characters are supposed to be like in their early to mid 20s, and they all act like they're in high school. It's like it's so weird. I don't know the background or history of how this book got published and all of that. I feel like Jaymin Eve is an indie author, and so I don't know if this was one of her first like traditionally published books or like whatever, but I just think that like she might need a new editing team or a new editor because there were so many things that I felt like could have been fleshed out more and given to us more, but it just never happened. Like it just stayed stagnant. It stayed at the very like surface level. It lacked depth. Like it's like there wasn't one element in here that really made reading this worth it. It just everything fell flat. So yeah, unfortunately, very pretty book, but lacked a lot of substance. That is my review of Spellcaster. I hope it wasn't like too harsh and all of that, but at the same time, if I'm going to be spending like 20 bucks on a book, I honestly am expecting it to be good. I'm expecting there to be something for me to make it worth it, and for this one, unfortunately, it just fell flat. I don't think I'll be picking up the second book. That is my review of Spellcaster by Jaymin Eve. And yeah, hopefully the next book I pick up for this vlog isn't as disappointing as this one. But yeah, unfortunately, that is my harsh review of this book. Hey guys, so it is the next night and I am finally home from just work and other things happening in my life. And so I thought it would be a good time to pick up another book. And I think the next book I'm going to pick up for this TBR takedown video is Girl Dinner by Olivie Blake. And I got this just last weekend and I've made it to chapter 10, I believe. So far, it's been a really quick read, and so that's why I wanted to continue to pick this up. And compared to the other books that Olivie Blake has written, this is definitely on the smaller end. So I should be able to get through at least 30 pages tonight. I've made it to part 2. This book is split up into 6 different parts, or 5 or 6 different parts. I've made it to part 2, so we are gonna get onto that. And yeah, but I literally still can't stop thinking about finishing spellcaster yesterday, and every time I think about it I think my star rating goes down. And so yeah, I would not recommend that book, and I'm sorry if I come across as a hater in this video towards that book. Like, I literally have nothing against the author, it's just simply I did not enjoy that book, and the more I think about it, the more mad I get. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump back into Girl Dinner. I also have been annotating this book, and so it's been a very like a loose annotation. I've only really been using a pen and a ruler. I haven't been highlighting anything. I've been really doing is underlining and circling just things that are happening in this book, but I haven't really done deep dive of annotating. So yeah, but let's move on to this book. I forgot to mention this, but also this week I decided that I wanted to do a Throne of Glass reread. As to any reason why, I feel like it's just like a lot of Throne of Glass TikToks have just appeared on my timeline. And you know what? I've been convinced Throne of Glass is one of my favorite series. And so I just feel like since I'm in the momentum of wanting to reread one of my favorite book series, I would just do it now, especially when I'm in the middle of 6 other books. But you know what, guys? Like, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I've been slowly, like, before bed, just reading a couple chapters and really, like, annotating Throne of Glass. And let me tell you, the reread of Throne of Glass is better than the first read of Throne of Glass, because now, like, you can actually read the books and pick up on all of the hints that Sarah J. Maas has thrown at you throughout the entire series. And am I a huge SJM fan? Not really, but I am a big Throne of Glass fan. I don't know, that book series just lives rent free in my brain, and I'm trying to find another series to fill that void. So if you have any recommendations, would love to hear them. I also have a never ending TBR. So yeah, anyways, let's get started reading our next book. Y'all, I just filmed that whole sequence with smeared eyeliner. Ask me how my day is going. Literally ask me how my day is going. It's going great. It's going great, you guys. Hey guys, so it's a few days later and I thought I would give you a bit of a reading update. I am still currently reading Girl Dinner by Olivie Blake, and overall, I'm really enjoying this so far. I mean, I think with Olivie Blake is that she always has such unique concepts for books that when I start to read her books and all that, I'm always immediately hooked because I have no idea what direction that these books are going to go in. I feel like her writing is also very hit or miss for people. She has definitely more of a stream of consciousness type of writing, so she writes with a lot of run-on sentences, but I think my brain just operates on run-on sentences, so when I read her books, I'm usually hooked and I can understand everything that's going on with like little to no effort, and I exactly know what she's talking about. And so it's the type of writing style that I personally really like, but I know a lot of people, it might not be people's most preferred method of reading, but this one I would say is a bit more digestible compared to the other books that I've heard she's written and all of that. The only other two books I've read by Olivie Blake is Gifted and Talented and One for My Enemy. And those two I would say to me are pretty digestible, but it's very hit or miss for some people. A lot of people said that, they didn't enjoy the writing of Gifted and Talented, and I feel like this one has similar elements to it, but also different. If you don't like a satirical type of humor and a sarcastic and a very darker type of humor, I don't think you would like this book. But what Olivia Blake does really well as well is just make these characters human, even if they're in the weirdest type of situation possible that she can think of. This I'm gonna give a more succinct plot synopsis of this book a bit later on when I do my book review, but overall, this book is taken from the point of two different characters' point of view. One of the point of views is a professor at this college, and the other one is a college student who is pretty much rushing. Rushing is pretty much like applying to be a part of a sorority. In an American college setting. This book focuses a lot on the sorority culture of this college and all of that, and this one unique sorority in which our character, Nina, or Nina, I think is how you say her name, is applying to. And pretty much it's a sorority that she's like infatuated by, the idea of it, but specifically the people in this sorority. And she ends up joining this sorority. She gets chosen by the girls and gets recruited into the sorority, and she notices that there are some things that are definitely not normal, but at the same time you as a reader don't really know what's going on with the sorority either. You can't necessarily dial it down to a cult just yet. I'm having a fun time reading this, and this one has definitely been a much quicker read than compared to her other books. And so, yeah, I think for the rest of the night, I'm going to take off my makeup and just read as much as I can of this. And yeah, I believe I'm around 30% of the way through this book right now. And so I'm going to try to get to at least 50%, but we'll see. Guys, I just finished reading Girl Dinner. What the fuck? What the fuck was that ending? I will do my review tomorrow, but hey guys, so I thought I would come on here and do a quick review of Girl Dinner by Olivia Blake. And overall, like, let's just jump into it. I don't really have too much to introduce this book or anything, but yeah, let's just jump straight into the book review. I finished this last night, and if you could not tell from the previous clip, I was shook by the ending. Overall, I decided to rate this a 4.25 stars, in that I personally enjoyed reading this book and all that. It just didn't give me what I was expecting it to give, if that makes sense. I think a lot of it had to do with the marketing of this book, and it just was giving a very different side of Olivia Blake that I wasn't necessarily expecting to explore in this book. So, I would categorize this book as more of a literary fiction compared to something like a horror or fantasy. It is, in a way, a bit more satirical. It's more a bit satirical Would I say it's like a dark comedy? Not really. I think it's just more a satirical stance on sorority culture and being part of, an exclusive club that's based off of, a lot of more so material things. And so I wasn't expecting it to be so literary fiction. I was expecting it to be a lot like, Olivie Blake, where it's either she's adding a magical realism element to it, a fantastical element to it. So this one is definitely a bit more set in the real world and all of that. And so pretty much let's move into kind of a more plot synopses of this book. So this book is told from the dual point of views of Sloane and Nina. So they are these two people who, in a way, have ties to this sorority on campus that's pretty much just called the house. And the house is very different from a lot of sororities. It's very exclusive. They don't let a lot of people in. But while Nina is doing her rushing, I guess that's the term of it, where she's, applying to all of these different sororities on campus, this one kind of catches her eye, and immediately she kind of feels like that this is her place. And a lot of the girls in the sorority take a liking to Nina. Nina ends up joining the sorority. Meanwhile, in Sloane's plot, pretty much Sloane is a mother who is also a professor, and she pretty much takes this job at this college because of her husband. Her husband is also a professor there, but he is more so, I guess, on the tenor track and, has a bit more of a higher paying, stable job compared to her. And also with Sloane is she's coming back into this career after having a baby and all of that. And so a lot of her plot focuses a lot on the themes of motherhood and, the pressure of your career has when you're a mother and feeling that guilt of leaving your child alone and not knowing if you're doing everything right for your child and all of that. So that's kind of what Sloane's plot really focuses on, and pretty much she gets recruited by someone who's also tied to the college and all of that. Her name is Alex, I believe. I don't know if she's like the house mother, or I don't know what her official title is, but pretty much this woman named Alex, who was a part of the sorority and now kind of oversees it, pretty much recruits Sloane to be sort of like an academic advisor for the girls in the sorority and all that. So that's kind of how Sloane is tied to that sorority. And throughout this book, Sloane and Nina's plots really don't intersect too much until the very end. They are exploring a lot of different kind of themes about being a girl, pretty much, and the themes of feminism and being a woman in the society, and kind of what sort of classifies being a good woman. What does feminism really mean? How do we show feminism? How are women treated in the society, and how do women treat other women? And it's like kind of what are the gendered roles of women versus how do we become more progressive and all of that. So that's kind of what this book really discusses and dives into. And I think if you're looking for more of a horror type, like more culty-ish vibe type of book, I don't think you're gonna get it in this specific book. This book is definitely more of just like the stream of consciousness between these two characters. And so there's a lot of just like philosophical themes of, what being a girl really means, especially in the context of the different characters and all that. So we have one that is more so talking about motherhood, and then the other one is talking to you about, being a college age girl making these decisions. What's going to further my career? How are these connections benefiting me? How is joining a sorority benefiting me and all that? So that's kind of like the main, I would say, plot themes of this book. Now moving on to the characters, of the main ones being Sloane and Nina, and then the kind of people that appear and they interact with. And so obviously there's Nina, and her plot usually focuses on her and the other girls in the sorority. And so, those relationships that she made, the relationships she makes outside of the sorority and all of that. And so I would say with Nina is a very complex character in that she is, again, one of the only people of color who gets recruited into this house. And so, she knows that. And, she definitely, in a way, isn't the stereotypical type of member that would join this house, but a lot of the girls see something in her and is sorority rushing in her sophomore year because stuff happened to her in her freshman year that she wants to forget. And really, her theme is really just finding a place where she feels like she belongs, where she feels loved, where, she can really dive into it and really care for it and care for, what she is being a part of. And she also has like a twin sister who is very much on the other end of the spectrum of like, she's a very political activist, and she kind of spouts a lot of, the kind of rhetoric of how the world is unfair to people, and she doesn't want to contribute to certain aspects of society that makes it hard for people who are marginalized or, don't benefit from those types of things in society, and, how life is kind of unfair. So she has a twin sister who's very much on the other side of the spectrum. Meanwhile, Nina's kind of that character who, it's like, so, like, who she's trying to figure out when is it okay for society to benefit me and when is it not okay. And meanwhile, that's kind of what Sloane goes through, I would say. And I would say also that these books are definitely more character driven as well. So I dove into to Nina a lot more. And so now onto the character of Sloane. So she, again, her chapters are very much from the points of motherhood and all of that, having a child, having that mom guilt, and also, having this job where, she's not necessarily being treated fairly in this environment. And, as much as she has goals and ambitions, it's like she also doesn't have time to do everything that she wants now that she, has a daughter to feed and, a husband who, doesn't help as much as he thinks he's helping and all that. She's a very complex character as well. And, she, I guess, has a lot of thoughts and, more of, she's also in this book a sociology professor. And so she looks at everything from a very sociological lens and all of that. And pretty much there's this little subplot in her chapters where she mentions this kind of influencer called the country wife, who is this influencer who in a way is very reminiscent of Nara Smith, if you are familiar with that side of TikTok. But Nara Smith is this influencer who is married to this model, and she's in her mid 20s or whatever, and she pretty much is like the traditional housewife. She cooks, she cleans, she feeds her family, but everything she makes from like scratch and all of that. And so there's this influencer in this book that is very much similar to a Smith type figure, and she kind of dives into sort of, you know, a person's influence like that, and how what does that have on feminism and on, impressionable young girls who, are in college. Like, does that make them want to be more ambitious about their careers, or does it set, the wave of feminism and, being a woman back another 50 years? And so that's what a lot of Sloane's plot kind of com- discusses. And so for characters, I think both characters are very complex, but I think it gets to a point where their stream of consciousness is almost too much. Like, you just see a lot of the times in their chapters just spiraling and spiraling, that it's like they'll make a point and then all of a sudden they talk themselves out of the point, and then we go back to the point, and then it's kind of like this never ending spiral until someone kind of snaps them out of it. That's kind of what reading this book is about. There's not really like a definitive answer as to like what being a woman really means or anything, because Olivia Blake literally cannot answer that because it's such a philosophical question. But, you get to see these women grappling with those thoughts and those effects, and seeing how it, kind of influences them and their decisions later on in the book. So, yeah, for characters, definitely a lot of characters that I wish were explored a bit more. And I think the reveals of this book and all of that are very predictable, but like the ending also isn't predictable. But at the same time, I feel like the ending is also a bit rushed. And so now just talking about like the other elements of this book, other topics about of this book, I really thought it would be more horror. I thought it would be a lot more weirder and all of that. I thought it would kind of dive a bit more into the culty side of things of being in a sorority, considering this is a satirical novel, but it just didn't lean into that satire as much as I thought it would, which is unfortunate because I do love reading a satirical book, but I love it when, there are things that make fun of themselves. And I don't know if Olivia Blake was ever in a sorority either. And so I don't know how much personal experience she could have really brought into this and all that. But one thing I do wish we had more of was the trad country wife influencer, because she was one of the best parts of this book just because she was so unhinged. Like, once you get to that point, and once you get through a lot of like the plot twists and all of that, or like the information that gets revealed to you, it's a lot more fun to read this and sort of learn more about this kind of influencer who, is a bit more kooky and unhinged than you would assume she would be. But yeah, I really thought we would kind of lean into her a bit more, and I thought she would have more of a bigger role in this book, which is unfortunate because I really, really liked her. I really, really like characters that are morally gray, I guess, or like, that are entertaining, and she was one of the more entertaining characters, I would say, in this book. But yeah, I feel like if you don't like Olivia Blake's kind of stream of consciousness writing, in that like everything is a bit of a run-on sentence and you kind of have to figure out the points that are coming across to you, or you have to work a bit harder to figure out those points, then I don't think this book is for you. If you're looking for something that's, a bit more action based and, plot based, I think that it would be best to choose a different Olivia Blake book. Though those are my main thoughts on Girl Dinner overall. I still had a good time, and I feel like if I reread this book knowing of what I know now, I think I would probably have a better read because I know what to expect going into this, and I can really focus more on the themes that Olivia Blake is trying to address. And I feel like also her being a mother and all that, I feel like a lot of this is influenced by sort of where she is in her life now and all of that. And so yeah, but those are my main thoughts on Girl Dinner by Olivia Blake. I gave this a 4.25 stars. And yeah, another book off of my TBR, and I will come back to you once I figure out what other book I decide to read for this TBR video. I decided that I want to do a quick little haul because I think what I bought is so cute, and also, did I just buy more books to put on my TBR? I did, but it was for a good cause. A good cause for me. At the bookstore, if you spend over $50, you get a free tote bag, and my performative ass, of course, loves a free tote bag. And so, yeah, but let's dive into the little haul I have. First off is just some clothes I bought. Originally, I was going to go clothes shopping, and then it turned into everything else shopping. And so, yeah, the first place I went is Aerie, and so I just got this, like, nice knit sweater from Aerie. I have it in the, like, white gray type of fabric, and so I liked it so much that I decided to get it in another color, and so found this, and this was only like 15 bucks from the outlet. And so yeah, I decided to get the sweater, and I think it's just like the perfect fall winter cozy loungewear sweater. I ended up getting some bras from Aerie, not that you need to see. I mean, but one thing about it is that I feel like a lot of people sleep on Aerie bras. Like, I have the sports bras and I love them, and so I just wanted to try some just like regular bras and see how I like them, and I tried these on and I personally really like them. And so yeah, I really like the fabric as well, so got some bras, and then I went to Uniqlo just to like get some basics and all that, or just to see the basics. And there was a new Uniqlo that opened up in the mall that I went to, and so when I was there, I ended up finding the Calico Critter or the Sylvanian family, whatever you want to call them, shirts. And so I picked two up. I got this gray one that just has the little guy in the corner, and I thought like this would be like such a fun, like cute little basic, especially to wear like at work and all of that. And then I ended up getting this one, which I think is so cute. It has like a bunch of the little figures and all of that, and I just think like it's such a cute t-shirt, and I had to pick up. The next thing I bought is this Japanese like shampoo and conditioner. I just needed more shampoo and conditioner, mostly conditioner versus shampoo, but I decided to pick this up and try it out. We're gonna actually try this tonight and see how I like it, but yeah, I did definitely need conditioner though. Now let's move on to the book haul. So I ended up getting 3 books because literally like 2 books will get you past that $50 purchase here in Canada. And so, but the books, I had such a hard time picking out what books I wanted because there's so many books that have gotten released, especially like winter, Christmas time books. But the thing is, I don't know if I want those in physical books, because the thing with like winter books is like the only time you'll read them is in the winter. And then once you read them, it's like, if they're not good, then you don't want to reread it. So I'm kind of like, I might read those like through ebook and all of that, or through the library, but I wanted to pick up some books that I just thought were like literally stunning, and I say to myself, even if I don't like these books, I'll still keep them and I'll still grab them. So the first book I saw at the bookstore was this edition of A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, and it is so stunning. So this is like the new, I don't know if it's like a new release or like it's a re-release of like the like of the series, I guess. And so this is the first book in the series, and it is gorgeous. It is stunning. Like, look at the sprayed edges and all of that, and just the artwork in itself. Like, Rebecca Ross, she knows what she's doing with her like repackage of books now. Anyway, so this is A River Enchanted, and the slip also is very similar artwork to, it's reversible, I believe. So this is the other side of the dust jacket if you wanted like the original type of artwork, just without any like text or anything. But like, this is just so stunning that I can't. And then the actual book itself as well, like, look at this. Like, it's beautiful. It is truly, truly beautiful. The next book I saw was Never Ever After by Sue Lynn Tan. And so I believe Sue Lynn Tan, she wrote the Daughter of the Moon Goddess books, and I didn't really like, I remember picking that up, but I never really finished that book, and it just like, when I picked it up, it was just like wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. So I believe this is her new, I don't know if it's a series or standalone book or whatever, but from what I heard, it's like a retelling of Cinderella, but like with Chinese like mythology and all that. Of just reading more books from Asian authors and all of that, and I feel like I just haven't been doing that as of lately. And so yeah, I decided to pick this one up. But the main reason why I wanted to pick this one up, because I saw on TikTok, first off, the artwork in the middle of this, stunning, but the cover, the artwork on the cover, like, I don't even need this dust jacket, to be quite honest. Like, this is so pretty. Like, it's stunning. And so like, I'm excited to read this, and I'm excited to pick up an Asian author that I haven't really read before. And so yeah, I'm very excited to read this book. And also it's so funny though, because like, I went to school with like a person with the exact same name as this author, and like, it's not the same person, but I just always find that funny. But yeah, I'm excited to read this. It just looks so whimsical and fantastical, and I love it. And then the last book I picked up is The Floating World by Axie O. I've been seeing this book like online on social media for such a long time, and so I needed to like I needed to get my hands on this. And the second book in the series actually did come out recently, and so this might be one of my more priority reads just in case I want to pick up that second book, because it is like technically like 15% off right now, so just a better price. And also like the artwork on here is stunning. I don't think there's no artwork on the hardcover of the book, but it's fine. Like, this looks stunning, and it's giving very much like Legend of Korra vibes, like this artwork. And guys, Legend of Korra, one of my favorite shows, and so I'm super excited to read this and pick this up. I've heard very good reviews of this book, so I'm excited. I've read Axio's books before. I'm more familiar with her K-pop romance books, but any fantasy book and also like a mini hardback cover or a mini hardback book of a book is definitely what I like, and so I'm excited to pick this up and all of that. And yeah, and then to show you the tote bag, there are two options. I got this one and my mom got a different one, but I got this nice like forest green book bag that says I could fit so many books in here. And true that. I love this tote. I love this tote so much. It's so cute. As a graphic designer, I approve of this tote. But yeah, that is the small little haul I have from today. We are going to finish off this vlog with, I think I know what book I'm going to be reading, but it's not a physical book. So, but it's still on my TBR, so I will still include it in this video. But, you know, sometimes being a mood reader and being someone who chronically buys books, you know, this is what my life is. Hey guys, so I thought I would come on here and share with you the final book I have for this TBR takedown video. And this one isn't necessarily a physical book, but it was on my TBR, and I do own the book, and that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I had the audiobook for the trilogy, and I ended up buddy reading it with my friends. And how did the buddy read go? I was the first one that finished it. And we've been reading this since, I believe, the start of September, so it's been a while. And so I thought I would come on here and give my review of it, as I just ended up finishing it for this specific video. Even though it's not a physical book, it was still on my TBR and I still own it. Overall, let's just jump into the review. I feel like Red Rising is a very popular book series, so I'm not going to go too deep into the synopsis of this book, because also there's just so many things that are also spoilers in this book series. But overall, I decided to rate it a 4 stars, and it's simply because there were definitely elements that I enjoyed while reading it, but there were also a lot of elements that I didn't enjoy. And overall, like, I felt like I wasn't as engaged in this book as I could have been, or compared to other like fantasy books that I read and all that. Hence, this one is more of a sci-fi fantasy, so I feel like it might have just been the genre. I was not ready to enter the sci-fi realm of things, but overall, I ended up rating it a 4 stars. There were things like that I enjoyed, and there are things that I didn't enjoy as much. It just didn't hit the 5-star mark for me, but I did enjoy the world building. I did enjoy the characters that we came across, and I did enjoy the action. And so yeah, let's jump right into it. First thing we should talk about is a plot. So pretty much this takes place, I would say, in a universe that's similar to ours, but it is very dystopian. But there are pretty much people living on Mars and all of that, and so that is the main character. He is someone who's known as a red, or that's what these people are classified as. And these reds are pretty much people who kind of live in the mines, the underground of the planet of Mars. And, you know, they're known to, I believe, I don't know if they're some type of miner, like they mine this specific type of like fuel or gas or something, and if they get this specific type of element, it contributes to this, I guess, competition they have with other communities around them, that it's like they get this laurel of goods and all that if they're the community or the group of people that gain the most of this element and all of that. So pretty much it's in this very dystopian world where people are classified by, their color. So there's reds, there's golds, there's pinks, there's greens, I think, or something. Like everyone's kind of classified and, put into these roles, and it's hard for them to branch out of these roles. And pretty much the golds are the people who are on the top. They're the people who are almost like they treat themselves like they're gods or they're warriors and all of that. And so a lot of stuff happens in which Darrow ends up learning something very, very different compared to what he's known his whole life. And so, yeah, I mean, I think one of the strongest things in this book is the world building. Did I explain any of the world building correctly to you? Probably not, but there is a lot of world building and there's a lot of just politics and things that the audiobook does a really good job at bringing each of the characters to life, and those politics and those dynamics and all of that. But at the same time, there is a trials, Hunger Game like element or trope in this book. And that's just personally something I'm not a huge fan of. It definitely, again, to me, it has to be done well. And for this one, I don't think it was done horribly or anything. I just felt like it was a lot longer, and it was a main emphasis of the book more than I thought it was going to be. So just going into it, if you're not a huge trials, elements, Hunger Game like trope fan of books, I don't know if you would like this one because it is a big element to this first book, at least. As for plot and all that, there definitely are a lot of twists and turns, some that I saw coming, others that I didn't. But really, I felt like the pacing for this was just very unsteady for me. I think there were some things in this book that kept me really engaged. And then once we left that part, I would get unengaged. I would kind of get bored. And then, other things would happen that would catch my attention. And then it would again slowly fall off. And so there was nothing, it was just not very steady for me. And also, I think a big part of that is because I was starting and stopping this book a lot. I was waiting for people to catch up to me. Whereas if I just sat here and just read the whole thing at once, I think my experience might have been better. But at the same time, I feel like there were just a lot of things that, kept me engaged and then would disengage me. And, it was just the pacing was just very unsteady in my opinion. It just wasn't something that was like that kept me engaged the entire time. But like the honestly, to be honest, the most times I was engaged was when the characters were fighting, when someone was dying, when the action was at its peak. That's when I was most engaged because I think Pierce Brown is just very good at writing action. He's very good at writing those feelings, that adrenaline, that and all of that, and like you can feel it with the characters. But then once that kind of ends and you're kind of back to the slowdown after that, it kind of gets a bit too slow. And so I wish that there was a bit more steadiness in that. But yeah, moving on to the characters, there are tons of characters that get introduced in this book. And so, but the main character that you follow and the characters at the point of view you follow is Darrow's. And so Darrow is a 16-year-old red and all of that. And he's a very complex character because he has definitely had to grow up a bit more compared to, normal like 16-year-olds and all of that. But at the same time, he also has those thoughts of a 16-year-old and he's very impulsive and he's very ambitious, but at the same time, it sometimes fires back at him and all that. And he is a very smart character as well, but at the same time, he can sometimes make stupid decisions. And so he's a very interesting character to follow. And yeah, there are tons of other characters that I want to talk about, but I simply can't because, like, introducing them would be a spoiler in itself. But I would say the characters are definitely, all of them are very complex, all of them are very complicated, and a lot of them are learning a lot about their life. And the thing about being stuck in Darrow's point of view the entire time is that sometimes it gets a bit too much, and I want to learn more about the other characters, and I simply can't because I'm like, well, this is literally narrated by Darrow, and he is not the most I would say he's not the most reliable, trustworthy narrator. And so, yeah, as for other elements like sci-fi elements, fantasy elements, I personally, again, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the world building. I'm not someone who's good at explaining world building by any means, but I did enjoy it. I did like the introduction to everything. I actually really like the first maybe 30% of this book, even though it is a bit slower and there is a ton of things you have to learn about the world. I personally really enjoyed it. And then once you kind of get into like the more action-based stuff, it feels a bit flat in a sense because then you're kind of pushed into a different topic of conversation and all of that, and then you kind of jump back and forth between the different elements that like Pierce Brown wants to communicate to you. And so I felt like I was being pulled into a lot of different discussions, and it just wasn't super cohesive as a whole throughout this whole reading experience. But yeah, that's again personally my opinion. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into a super detailed review of Red Rising just because it's such a complicated book series and like world and all that. But yeah, that is the first book. I rated it a 4 stars. I heard that the second book a lot of people like a lot better, which I am excited about, and I hope there's no trials aspect or like Hunger Games aspect in that one, so we can just sit in the world for a bit because I feel like whenever there's like some kind of competition element, like you get thrown into a very different situation. And I feel like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of it. It has to be done really well or it has to kind of make sense in my mind. And for this one, it made sense, but it also I didn't love it. And so, yeah, those are my thoughts on Red Rising, and that is the last book I have for this TBR takedown video. So, with that being said, I am going to end this book vlog here. So, thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know if the books in this video are also on your TBR, or if you've read them, or if you have the same thoughts or different thoughts than me. We are now moving into November, which is crazy. But I have so many more reading vlogs to get done because I have so many more books I need to get done. So another one of these videos is probably going to come to you soon. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!